2x4 goes up, you pay more per house. So. Oh.
Can I get your name? Oh, yeah.
If you're lucky.
Oh, we're good. We're trying to stand up anyway, right? Yeah, so that way you can't keep us too long.
Extra 20 minutes for the tax.
No, no, I just want the bad news over real fast. Insurance people.
I know. They'll throw you off now.
A motion to open the meeting. Tim makes the motion, Cindy seconds it. I vote for it, all in favor of it. Okay, please stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll catch it.
Tonight, we have a special hearing to discuss the possibility of approving local law number 1 for the 2025 year, which would allow for a tax cap override for the 2026 year. Under, state law, all right, generally, governmental institutions, at least at the local level, are limited to a 2% increase in taxes. If the board decides to pass this law, taxes could have a rate of higher than 2%. Many towns pass this law because they're not sure what kind of problems as the budget process. It's actually beginning now, but it ends generally, by late October or the middle of November. And then if we know we can go above 2%, then we might have higher tax rates. So this law acts as a safety net for the town if we have to ask for a higher tax rate. There are actually 4 areas that the town is responsible for. There's a general budget. The second budget is the highway budget. Then in this town, we have a water budget, which controls the drinking water, in this hamlet. And then we have a 4th budget, which is the wastewater budget or sewer budget. So there are 4 different budgets. In theory, we could have taxes higher, all right, in the general budget than 2%, but taxes might stay at 2% in the highway budget. There could be changes in the water and sewer, or they might stay at 2% increase. So it all depends on what the revenue flow is and what the expenditures are. And I'm going to give you some examples, Since I was elected to office, and some of the people here, and this was for January 1st, 2024, it's been a continuous battle of paying back bills that came about in 2022, 2023, and they were not paid in a timely manner. So then it was our responsibility in our 24 budget and our 25 budget to pay some of those bills. We still struggle, and I'll give you the hardest example that we have, and this affects the general budget. Previous administrations, okay, there's a required document called the annual financial report. Each township must fulfill this document. And it's a 45 page document. It looks at all of your finances, all the money that came in, all the money that was spent. Unfortunately, previous administrations did not file in 2020. They did not file in 2021. They did not file in 2022. They did not file in 2023. And then you would think, well, why didn't I do 24 and 25? You've got to get the furthest ones back. You got to get that done. You got to get 2020 first. When that's done, then you do 21, then you do 22. This puts a huge burden on us because it's $2,500 for the external auditor to submit this document, okay, to the controller's office down in Albany. So currently, we're looking, we still have to do 23 and 24, and we're hoping to get that here. But that's going to cost the town, all right, $5,000 to get those two back financial reports to the controller, $5,000. Then plus we pay them for their services, okay, $2,000 a month. So right now, all right, I'm $15,000, okay, in the hole, just to catch up, just to pay our present bills. I'm going to do this board, if they approve a budget transfer, okay, which will give me right now a $4,000 cushion in this one area of the budget. But by the end of the year, I'm going to have to come up with another $6,000. So this is an added strain, all right, that the general budget faces. The other strain that we find, and this one's no one's fault, okay? I mentioned that the Dexter Lake, okay, pit. So Roger, the highway department, they're working diligently on that. However, you've got state officials that are telling him exactly what he has to do. And then we have engineers, okay, that guide Roger and tells him what to do. We needed a pit, okay? We needed a license for our South River Road gravel pit. So we had to pay all sorts of people, okay? The engineers had to come in and do all sorts of tests before they give us a license. We also have a sand pit on the Kluge Road. And I think the permit there, okay, had to be restarted. So we have thousands of dollars that we have to pay the engineers to complete these tasks. And those are the two biggest holes that I have in the general budget. So those are probably my two most serious problems that I have to deal with, where I know I'm going to have to transfer money from other line items because I don't have enough. So that's why, okay, we know I'd have to ask the taxpayers for more than 2%, at least in the general budget. Cindy, Tim, Roger, you want to say anything?
Doing a fine job, Ernie.
So I'll take questions from the public. Yes,
We have been hearing that you guys are going to raise our lot rent back up to $500. You just raised it $500.
absolutely untrue.
Lot leasing,
Yes, absolutely untrue. There's no plan to change the lot leases.
because people like us on Social Security can't afford to pay that high price. I mean, these people are building fancy houses, and then we're getting taxed because of them, or because we have living on Riverside. The South River and the North River Road has been hit a lot compared to what the town has. A lot of houses around here that need fixing, that ain't nobody's living in, that they could be fixing it up and making more money to come into this county, into the state part of our lives.
So I agree with you. We need to improve our housing here. And if you improve the housing, then you would have a higher assessment and you could collect more taxes. That's true. But we are not, there are no plans to raise the lease fee. It's at $500, okay? And for the 2026 year, there's no plan to increase it.
Now, how about, lot rent? The tax, land tax we pay every year on our property.
Now, earlier this year, all right, the Office of Real Property said that you didn't have to pay the land tax. So your land tax on your lots, okay, has been taken off your tax bill,
Which was $2,000.
which was, you were assessed at $2,000, okay, and you were paying taxes on that assessment. That has been taken away. You do not have to pay that anymore. You just pay what your structures are assessed at. That's what you're. So that's actually decreased for you. And that's for every South River Road that leases property. $2,000 to people who have lots.
Yeah, now, another question. Now, you have a contract with the railroad? What contract is that to,
The town, okay, has, that land's been transferred from the railroad to the town, okay? The railroad has no interest in the South River Road, as far as I know.
Does that deficit, by not collecting the $2,000, is that indirectly gonna impact your revenue for the town as far as why we have to do this? Why?
This is, what the problems that I just cited here, it really has nothing to do, okay, with the less revenue coming in.
I don't understand how it couldn't go. How could it? I mean,
Like, it could affect the grade.
Right. Also, there'll be increased assessments, okay, that will overcome
increase just on the river road or
Well, no.
for everybody?
the town, the whole town, okay? On people who do renovations, okay, people who build new homes, all right? So there'll be more assessed value. Plus, all right, we are hiring a new assessor come October 1st of this year. And one of the things he did, okay, it still works for Dickinson as an assessor, okay? He will be working for us, and he was pretty good at finding, there's properties out there that might be incorrectly or maybe not assessed at all. And he seems to be pretty good at ferreting these out, all right? And so that'll add assessment, okay, to the overall township.
Is there a limit on this above the cap thing at all, or is it just up to the town?
Well, in theory, we could make it astronomical, but that's certainly not the plan. Okay. We did this last November. We did this. Certain time, for example, I'm I'm pretty sure the town of Malone does this automatically as business, okay? Every year they pass this, so they have the ability to raise taxes more than 2%.
If necessary.
Right, if necessary.
If it's every year, it must be necessary.
It's because we're in a bind, okay? I would say, you know, it's easy to blame people, but the taxpayers love it. There's no increase year. You immediately fall behind, whatever the inflation rate is, if you don't collect some tax, you fall behind, all right? So your bills are greater, okay, but your revenue maybe remains the same. So you get behind. And if you do that successive years, you get further and further behind. So we're in this mess, okay, because of the actions of the board and the supervisor in the past. Is this gonna go on forever? Okay, passing a law where we could have greater than 2% tax increases? I really don't think that's gonna go on forever. I certainly, I don't want it to go on forever.
Last year, for example, general fund was appropriated at a 6%, 5.5%, 6% increase. Highway went up 12%. Water and sewer hasn't been raised in many, many years. It was actually a 0 increase for water and sewer. It's been that way for 10 years, 12 years since they've had an increase in taxes. Didn't really affect anybody overall, but instead of going, if you had to, a 2.5%, 3% annually, it was forced to go that high, at least the first time around. So this year, we may be only at 3%, 2.5%, we may be able to get away with 2%. But it's the ability to go to that point, because as we know, insurances, for a prime example, I mean, 9, 10, 15%, medical insurances go up 12, 15% annually. I mean, when you're limited for 2% and you've got that kind of increases coming, that's out of our control, I mean, it's just one of those things that if people would progressively gain, you'd never fall behind. But everybody thinks they're doing a great job with a 0 increase in taxes, and all it does is shut everything down. Everything that you're expecting in town to get done all comes to a standstill, and people go, well, why are we paying men to sit down and do nothing? Why is this not getting accomplished? Because we didn't want to increase taxes. That's basically what it boils down to. So if you want things, you want improvements, you have to be able to raise your taxes at a certain percentage, a fundamental certain percentage, not astronomical.
Well, I understand. You raise taxes too much, though, it drives people out.
Very true. That's why I say if they do it little by little, people aren't shocked. You know, it gets stable. People want to come here, they want to build, you get more revenue.
Of course, every time you make your place look better, regardless, it's a
Increase your resale value, increase your equity.
You said it didn't affect the budget by reducing lot fees by $2,000. Absolutely does. How many lots is there up there? 150?
Yeah, I'm probably mistaken.
That's $300,000 is going off the tax rolls. Absolutely affects the budget. Absolutely.
But it
You're right,
is,
Lawrence, I misspoke on that.
well, again, in your defense, you also said with new home construction, all it takes is 2 houses to be
Well,
built.
yeah, but I mean, you gotta, when somebody asks you a question, you gotta tell them absolutely affects the budget. Anytime anything goes off the tax roll, it affects the budget. And when a new home comes on, absolutely. You get 1 new, 2 new homes, it makes up for it, but still,
It affects
it
it.
affected the budget.
For sure.
So you're right, I misspoke on that issue.
So why was the land tax taken away?
On the South River Road, North River Road, because, it was illegal, the courts decided, okay, somewhere in New York State, okay, because the town owns the land, okay, they should be, we don't pay the tax on the land, okay, but it shouldn't be the burden of the leasing. Just their structures, where how they're assessed, that they should be.
So the town owns the land.
Yes,
Oh, so it's not private property.
No,
No.
no, he's referring to just the North and South River Road lease lots.
right,
That's all that pertains to.
Right. But that's what you told me, that it was private property. Am I wrong?
Well, people that own private property up there, there's people that own those.
They didn't have the 2,000 from their property.
It didn't affect that.
correct. For example, there are some people who have access lots, okay? So to get to their private property, so they're set back, more than 50 feet. Okay? So nothing's gonna change for
Yeah,
that,
then the whole-
for the people in that situation.
Do you have any idea how much it's gonna go up?
In the next month and a half, I'll know. It'll be discussed at every public meeting that we have.
Is it like a millage, I mean, per thousand or something like that? Is that normally how they do it up there? A certain amount of dollar for each assessed value per
Yes,
thousand or something like that?
yes.
Yeah, last year they did, you did the sheet that said it went up this, that, and the price increases.
Exactly. And I'll do the same thing again.
So it's your millage, type thing, $1,000 per assessed $1,000 bill or per thousand or whatever it is, yeah, whatever that amount is.
We would look at the increase, okay, and then show numbers for 25,000, 50,000, 100,000. How much more would it cost you with dollars?
Yeah.
Any more questions?
Yeah,
Yes,
when I asked about some relief for repairs to the lots that I had, you told me that it was private property, and that FEMA wasn't, gonna respond to that. And they pretty much said the same thing, and sent out an email, that's what they said, it was private property, so they weren't going to do that. So now you're saying that the town owns it, so I mean, how can it be both?
I'd have to talk to the FEMA people, okay?
Okay,
And see. Basically, what I was told by FEMA people, all right, is that, okay, all of the money that's gonna be reimbursed is for losses that the towns would have with bridges, culverts, okay, ditches, all right, repaving those roads. They were more, okay, that was the focus of the FEMA reimbursement. Not private, okay, homes or lots, okay? That was my understanding. And I gave you some phone numbers. but-
right, as I said, I tried calling, of course, nobody answers, but I sent an email, and Kayla, got back to me and said that private property was not covered under the disaster declaration, so, I mean, probably what she's right and what she's saying, but, I mean, I didn't know it was private property, I guess,
Right.
so. I mean, now that you're saying the
And
town.
I viewed it more as private property that the homeowners had, okay? And, you know, this is the first time this whole disaster from last August, okay?
Right.
I'm learning as we go along is what can happen and what can't happen. I'm learning just like everybody else with that.
So I guess I need a clarification of whether it's private property or not, I guess that's. You know, or they need a clarification.
Yeah, I think need a clarification.
I mean, if it's private property, fine.
Yeah.
If you're saying the town owns it, I fail to see that being private property. I mean, if I owned it, I mean, that'd be a different thing, that'd be private property, which I wish I did.
You know, this is, what we have here is something that lawyers would have to carve this up, because it's, in a sense, the town owns the property, you're leasing it, okay? Your structure is on that property, all right? You certainly.
Yeah, which it was.
The structures are your private property.
I guess they need the clarification, I guess, you know, they're just looking at the broad spectrum of saying private property.
I guess I don't, I'd have to look more into this, okay? I don't have a better answer to that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, so it's up to the board, okay? I'd look for a motion to approve local law number 1, 2025, which would allow us to raise the tax cap above 2%, okay, in 2026 year. Cindy makes the motion.
I second it, but do we have quorum?
Three-
We need
three-
three people
three is
on
a-
the board, you're not the board, you're the super.
He's considered,
But I'm considered a board member, okay?
What's that?
he's considered a board member.
Okay.
So we have the bare minimum, 3 out of the 5 of us, okay?
All right.
We're here. You're a second, sir?
Yep.
All right. All those in favor? Aye. So the local law of 2025 to affect the 2026 tax rate, okay, is now passed. Let's have a motion to adjourn this hearing. Cindy makes the motion, Jim seconds it. All those in favor? Aye. All right, so the hearing on local law number 1 is over. So we'll go to a regular board meeting. A motion to open the meeting. Jim makes the motion, Cindy seconds it. All those in favor? Aye. Please, we'll do another pledge of allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll look at the minutes, okay, of the previous meeting of July 28. We're looking at approval of those minutes. Are there any questions or concerns on those minutes? Can I have a motion? to Accept these minutes? Cindy makes the motion, Tim seconds it, all those in favor? Minutes are approved. So we have, two presentations tonight. First presentation is from Nymer Insurance Policy. We have Pat McGuire and Jessica Burdick, okay? They represent this company in which we, purchase insurances for our buildings and for all our vehicles. Just for the record, okay, our insurance coverage starts on September 1st of the given year and then goes to August 31st of the next year. So that's why we're discussing this. It's not tied to the fiscal year. Okay? So,
Sir,
Okay.
well, thank you very much.
okay,
And I want to thank Ernie and Roger, first of all. Like 6 weeks ago, before we sat down for maybe 2.5 hours at least, and we went through everything. And, you spent a lot of time with us, and we asked a lot of questions, and you gave us a lot of information. Before I get going, I want to explain to you something about Cameron, okay? What it is, it's actually, it's a company of choice in New York State right now. There's 1,600 municipalities in New York State, and currently they insure almost 1,100 of them. So it's by far the most competitive, the most comprehensive, program in the state. Recently, one of the counties that's south of here, midterm, broke away from their current insurance company and went with Nymer because they were that much more competitive and broader, in scope. So, it kind of speaks for itself. We've been representing them for, quite a few, numbers of years. Our retention level has been, 100%. The majority of towns and villages, county stuff, are insured with Nymer. But after listening to what, you're going through, then tonight, like what Ernie alluded to earlier, and Roger did too, insurance companies have price increases. There was a price increase on this, but it was, in comparison, what we've seen in the marketplace, it was, it was lower than, a lot of other ones. And if anybody has an auto homeowners, we're all familiar with what that has done last few years. Or you have medical insurance. And this, this rate of increase is, quite a bit less. Jessica does the, like I said, the heavy work about this. I don't, I'll admit it, she does the heavy work. And she was back and forth even with, Ernie today. So what we did today, we gave you, a choice of a high deductible on the property. Because the overall rate increase for this year, with no changes, was 7.42%. But that includes an increase on the property of 6%. Okay, what the company says is we got to increase all the property values by 6%. And if you've done any building lately or done anything, you understand it's all going up. It is. And the way the property is written, and we'll get into it as we go through it, you'll understand why. The increase. But in fact, next year they're only asking for an increase on the property of 4%. So part of that 7%, increase was a 6% increase of value. But we'll start screwing on this thing. We won't belabor it. We'll go back and forth on it. Okay. We're not going to deep dive unless you want us to stop and discuss anything particular. So why don't we go to page page 4. I'll do the first one, and then I'll let Jeff, he'll do the next section. Okay, the blanket insured amount in all your buildings is like $9 million. In total, $9 million. The company provides, Nymer provides a free appraisal of all that property. So it came up to $9 million. And like on the highway garage, this garage in the office, you have about $2.8 million. In the event of a total loss on this particular piece of property, you would actually have the full $9 million. You don't have 2.8, but you have full $9 million. Because what it is, it's called blanket amount. It's kind of insurance crap, legalese and everything else. But basically what it says, when you put it all together in one big, bucket, exactly, that's who said that, thank you. You said bucket, thank you. Put it in one big bucket. In the event of a total loss, you would have that, that $9 million worth of coverage. Right now, you have $1,000 deductible. And we named all the different, buildings that get property on. And we went over that with, Ernie and with Roger. So we'll skip through that, and there's $1,000 deductible on that. We'll talk about, the other later on, what we did there. Jessica, you some notes on that. Okay? So, okay, do you want to do the equipment breakdown?
Yeah, so we skip over to page number 8, it's called boiler and machinery, which we also call equipment breakdown. So that's sudden and accidental claims to do with your HVAC, boilers, heating units, air conditioning units, anything like electrical. You also get that whole total of like the $9 million stuff if something happened. We had a claim recently that their boiler system was in the basement and it filled completely up with water. And because they had this coverage, they were able to get their whole heating system back up and running.
Which cost how much?
It was over $100,000.
Yeah, it was over $100K, yeah, so it was a lot of money, yeah.
And now also $11,000 deductible.
Okay, and the next one is on page 921, it's the general liability. Okay, the general liability covers you for everything that you do in the town for liability wise, other than the board itself and other than the vehicles. So if somebody, walks in here, slips and falls, you're covered. If for some reason, somebody wasn't happy with the road design and they had an accident on it, before your time, but they could still sue for that. Because they said there wasn't sufficient sand or salt on it, particular patch of road, and they had an accident, they sued the town. They would have coverage under that. So it's, pretty broad in scope. There's no deductible under that portion of coverage. You have a $1 million limit. Okay? And under that, forgot, employee benefits liability, that's down below that. That has to do, right now, you provide certain benefits for the, your employees. If you screw up on that, forget that, say somebody has a newborn, you forget to add them on, you have coverage up to $1 million for that. Okay.
Page 10 is your crime coverage, which is a dishonesty insurance policy. It's disappearance of money, anything that is owned by the town. So per employee of $25,000, and then you scheduled the tax collector, the supervisor, and the account clerk for an extra $100,000. If they stole money or wrote themselves a check, you would have coverage under this. Of course, you'd have to call the police and get a police report and all that good stuff and have them arrested. But you would have computer fraud, coverage fraud, transfers coverage, inside the premises, theft of money or robbery.
Yeah, and the computer fraud has to do with, for some reason you're moving money around and something happens. And we're all familiar with that right now, that happens. Everybody knows, cyber liability's out there. If you read the paper for, 10 minutes, you see somewhere, the federal government's gotten hacked. So, that's what that's all about. So the next page is public officials liability. Okay, that covers the board and the decisions. Okay, and it's $1 million limit on that. On that one, it's a $2,500 deductible. So if some reason the board gets, sued for a decision they made, it's covered for them. You should never sit on any sort of board whatsoever unless they have either director's offices or public official liability, which is one missing. Because as a board member, you really are, you're exposing yourself, so you want to have this kind of coverage to cover you. Okay? And actually, the $2,500 deductible is the lowest deductible you can buy for this coverage. Okay.
Page 12 is going to be the town's business auto. So this is going to protect the town and the employees when they're driving on the road in a town-owned vehicle. There's $1 million worth of liability, and you have additional PIP, which is injuries. We have mutual aid, so if, say, your neighboring town calls Roger and says, we need you to come plow, Roger can go do that, or vice versa. They can come here and do that, and you have coverage for that. You have deductible reimbursement, so say the clerk was going to the bank and depositing money, and she hit a deer. And so her car insurance would pay for her damages, but this insurance policy would give her back up to $1,000 for the deductible, if something happened.
And on 13,
Page 13 is gonna be the list of your vehicles, which we could go over with Roger and Ernie on that. If your vehicle or a piece of heavy equipment is 10 years or newer, you have replacement costs on that. If it's 10 years or older, you don't get replacement costs, and that's why I figured out the value.
you get actual cash value on that, on the new stuff. We went over, we talked about the values quite a bit with Roger and Ernie on that. Look okay, Roger? Okay, good.
I
Okay.
didn't see my pickup on there though.
No, your pickup's there. Oh, you mean your own pickup? Oh, thank you, thank you. A little joke just to break the ice. Well, thank you. Okay, you got me on that one. Okay. And on the next page, we have what they call the inland marine equipment float. It's actually it's the equipment that, the town of Waverly owns. And we went through that. And, you have certain things, you have radios and security cameras on that. And you have, on the dump trucks, they put the comp collision under this policy, which is a lot cheaper that way to do it that way. So that's why she has it done.
That's why you're gonna see them listed on.
Yeah, two places. You don't have a dual coverage. You have one is for the liability and the other part is for the physical damage and the comp collision. So it's a little confusing, but that's why it works that way.
And then page 15 is all the equipment.
Yeah.
that you guys
And what's the values behind that? Okay. Okay, and any questions, stop me if the board has any questions. We're flying through this, but. Okay, page 16 of 21 is the commercial umbrella policy. Right now, you have $1 million coverage under your general liability, $1 million coverage under your office, and $500,000 coverage under your public fiscal. In the event you have a serious claim, this provides an additional $1 million. At the end of the quote section, we'll show you higher limits. If you're interested. Okay. And actually, right there, I'm sorry, Jess did it right there. See, if you went for additional $1 million on that, it would cost you $715, which is actually not a bad deal. Really. The town will always do this. And what's going on. Okay. Any questions at all on that? Okay.
Page 17 is called owners and contractors policy. It's actually a policy New York State requires every town, every village, every county to have. It costs $275, and it just protects New York State when the town drives over, works adjacent to any New York State owned $1 million of coverage. And it lists New York State as the named insured on the policy.
And page 18 and 21 is the cyber liability. Okay, what they did this year is they made the cyber policy much more robust. Because if you look at it, there's two columns right there. Current coverage, quoted coverage. And the difference between the two is $67. The current coverage only has, $1,000 deductible. The new, one has $5,000. But the whole thing is, we would highly suggest that you go with higher limits with a higher deductible, just because, in a lot of those lines, you're getting 10 times the coverage on that. And especially like, when they talk about first party loss, they're meaning the loss that you actually suffer as a town. So if you get breached and you gotta get people in here to get it going again, that's what it's all about. Third party liability is like, general liability. So, it's that other party, like if you post it and you're not going to do it. Like a fire department, I bring that up all the time. If I'm doing a fire department, if somebody posts something on, say, Facebook, that they were the scene of a horrific accident and they stuck somebody's, the accident on, I mean, that would be horrific. And then, you could very well get sued for that. But, your major coverage, portion under that first party loss. So if you increase it, you're going from, most of those lines from $25,000 to $250,000 for $67. And not only that, NYMER has you know, they've actually got somebody where she teaches at, Albany, Albany State. And she's a cyber expert, that's what she teaches. So, I mean, that's who Elizabeth. Yeah, and we deal with her all the time on it, so, you know, she's been much more robust. Okay, so the page 19 to 21. Okay, that. But Jess did some, you know, to Ernie, and you know what you had budgeted. You know, we went over your budget, but as she explained over the phone, you know, it went up 7.42%. But if you went from $1,000 deductible on your property and your, oil and machinery, the savings would be, $2,100. So it would bring it down, under your, what you put in the budget.
Right.
And if I owned $9 million worth of property, I would gladly, go from $1,000 to $2,500. To me, that's an okay. If you're saying $2,100. Because for the most part, over the course of the year, you might have a property claim, once every 3 to 4 years, no more than that. You've had a couple of this past year, well, you might say two. But for the most part, you've been pretty bulletproof, but it makes sense to do it yourself, the first $2,500. I mean, my son has $2,500 deductible on his house. We have people out there, where they're building new homes, they're, a lot of money, they're going as high as 10 and sometimes it's higher. So, we highly suggest it.
Question, clarification.
Sure.
Okay, so the recommendation is on our buildings.
Right.
From $1,000 deductible to a $2,500.
It would save you $2,111.
But there's no change on the vehicle. The vehicles stay
The same.
at 1,000.
Right, I mean, you could get a high deductible there, we can get that for you, yeah. But I mean, we knew, the bigger savings was going to be in the property deductible for the, property. I mean, our suggestion, really, you put that number in, is to go with the $2,500 deductible, up your cyber by the $67 and buy like the, additional $1 million worth of umbrella coverage.
And that still leaves you under your budget.
Under your budget. That would be our suggestion.
So what I budgeted, okay, and you gave me whatever number I had, okay, in 2024.
Right.
Okay,
You,
you told me 9%.
Right.
That's what I put, I rounded it off. So I
Sure.
put $48,000 in the
Yeah.
budget right now to pay this bill, okay? So it's my hope to stay within that number.
sure.
So that's why, when I talked to Jessica, I'm interested in raising the deductible on the buildings from 1,000 to 2,500. All right, and then I don't want to change on the vehicles, but we'll have 1,000 on the vehicles. That stays the same. The $67 for cybersecurity, I'm willing to pay that. All right, and then the umbrella coverage, okay, from $1 million to $2 million, because you just never know.
You never know.
You never
You
know.
never know.
And you correct me, Jessica quoted a price of $47,894.41. Is that correct?
Yep.
And so, $47,894.41. So I stay just under the 48,000
Which
that
is,
was allocated.
which is pretty good.
You're good with that?
That's great.
Oh, thank you. Well,
It's easy to understand it this way.
don't thank me. Jessica does all the heavy lifting. I'd like to, I'd like to say, yes, I did a hell of a job on that, but she did the hell of a job. I can't take any credit whatsoever, like zero. You kidding me? I would take 3 years to do that.
Oh.
Is there
not really that much of an increase.
No,
No, it isn't.
No, it's not.
no, no. You wanna make a vote on
Roger,
it,
you
I
okay?
You're the one paying the bill, I'm good with it.
guess?
I'm paying it for the taxpayers.
Yes, it looks quite fine to me, it really does.
All right, a motion to accept this package for $47,894.41.
I'll make that motion.
Cindy makes the motion. Tim seconds it. All those in favor?
Aye.
The insurance package, as we described it.
Thank you.
is now
Thank you very
accepted
much.
by the board.
Thank you.
The two board members that are not here, do you want me to leave the book?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Actually, I made one for, Tricia, but it was.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you,
Pat.
Lord.
I just
Thank
have-
thank you. Oh, like that.
So this one, so in New York State, you have to sign a thing just saying that you can consent to, receive email documents. If like I'm not there and someone else takes the phone call, they don't have it, they're not gonna email it to you. And then the next one is just that, the cyber application that we send over to, ADK Tech to help us fill it out. You just have to sign that. And it just accepts the extra coverage as well. It's okay, it's fine.
All right,
Awesome, all right, thank you.
Thank you very
Thanks
much.
for your time, guys, have a good day.
Safe journey home.
Oh, thank you.
Watch the deer.
Oh, you're right.